My topic today is the Nord Stream 2 project, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which is also very controversially discussed in the Baltic states. Nord Stream 2 has not only been criticized since the poison attack on Alexei Navalny. The states in North and East Central Europe criticized the project from the beginning. Since 2014, the critics on Nord Stream 2 have received another counter-argument, the Ukraine. Criticizers fear that the former Soviet Republic will lose importance as a transit country for Russian gas due to the Baltic Sea pipeline, which could encourage Putin to finally destabilize the country or even to occupy it militarily after the actions taken in the Crimea area. And the fights we have now in the Donbas area, a concern that Kiev also shares. In addition, the country is in an economic crisis. It depends on the income of the transit fees for the gas. The Baltic EU member state that is currently looking to Berlin, which curiosity about the gas pipeline is Lithuania. Of course, we are watching the debate going on in this country about the future of Nord Stream 2, said Darius Semaska, Lithuania's ambassador to Germany. And of course, we have the hope that this project will not be completed. The diplomat of the Baltic states continued. Because Lithuania is one of the North and East Central European countries that have spoken out against the controversial pipeline from the beginning. Lithuania has communicated its critical point of view to Germany in the past few years. Semaska continues, and Lithuania, whose independence from the Soviet Union was recognized by Germany in 1991, justifies this not only with its own historical experience with Russia and the reference to the Ukraine. Lithuania is one of those states that have followed up their criticism with action. The country, which until a few years ago was 100% dependent on Russia and partially Belarus for gas and electricity supplies, opened a terminal of liquefied gas in Klaipėda in 2015. This offers sufficient capacity to cover 90% of the demands of the entire Baltic region. In addition, 2 years ago, the Baltic states set itself the imposing goal of generating 100% of its own electricity by 2050. 80% of this should come from renewable energy sources. And Poland is also becoming more and more independent from Russian gas supplies. It's not only relies on liquefied gas, but also on the Baltic pipe. By 2022, so next year, when the contract between Poland and Gazprom expires, this should complete the supply from Poland, from Denmark with Norwegian gas. If Nord Stream 2 is not completed, this pipeline could make Poland an important energy hub. But the country would not make itself independent of Russian raw materials. The most important importer for the coal-dependent Polish energy industry, which is largely in the hands of state corporations, is Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline is more than just economic interest. It's about geopolitics and German-Russian relations. Completely controlled by the sea in between. That's how it should come. The East-West conflict from 1945 to 1989 was largely a geopolitical one, which only got its concrete from the irreconcilable sharpness through the ideological contract. It is therefore not surprising that after the collapse of the communism, the United States continued its policy of containment and continued efforts to encircle Russia. A pioneer of this policy, the global strategist, put it openly on the 1997 book, The Grand Chessboard, The Loss of Ukraine. And it says, acts as a geopolitical catalyst. Without them, Russia would be unable to build an independent Eurasian empire. After all, he would have no choice but to submit to the US dominated Western community. It would then have to regulate its external and internal circumstances according to the Western guidelines. Geostrategically, the Americans would get another piece of Eurasian landmass under their control. From the Russian point of view, Vladimir Putin is absolutely right when he describes the collapse of the Soviet Union as the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. The occupation of Crimea was a geopolitical emergency stop on the, hang on a second, on the Russian state in order to forestall the convention of the peninsula into the NATO base, from which the United States could control Russia's access to the Black Sea. Europe is a dependent territory of the US. It serves as a Eurasian bridgehead for American power and as a possible springboard in expansion into the Eurasian continent. The main focus is on Germany, the most important European power. The US wants to prevent Russia's neutral resources from being combined with Germany's economic and technical capabilities. They see more sharply that the geopolitically underexposed Germans, that the German-Russian gas project has the potential to become the nucleus of a Eurasian energy and economic area that is emancipating itself from the US. In addition, Ukraine would be weakened as an American asset by the elimination of the transit fees for the gas pipeline to the Western Europe and crosses its territory. That is why the US opposition to the Nord Stream 2 is fundamental. It existed long before Trump. Under President Biden, the new president of the US, it would not decrease. A common European-Russian space is a geopolitical nightmare for the US, regardless of the political regime and whenever it is dominated by Brussels, Berlin, or Moscow. Germany is not only expected to write off its billions of investments, to jeopardize its constructive loyalty and to suffer a political loss of face. It should no longer pursue an independent Russian policy at all and place it under the curate of the EU policy and the permanently hostile to one presupposed neighbors with Russia and serves the geopolitical interests of the US. It would be wrong, however, to classify the objections as externally controlled, fixed on the past, or even anti-German. Rather, the federal government has to ask itself why the Eastern Europeans have the feeling that Germany is ignoring their interest and why they can only imagine Europe as an US protectorate and how one relates on the other. There would be the alternative possibility of viewing the pipeline project as a component of the future congruence of interests with Russia, and thus as an element of stability that benefits all of Europe and strengthens its position on the global scale. There is a clear political failure here on the German side. The German leadership did not foresee or take into account the geopolitical implications and effects on the project. Merkel's predecessor in office, Gerhard Schröder, the former chancellor, who had promoted the project, spoke in 2002 of a German path that he was pursuing, a policy of self-confidence without arrogance, of partnership both internally and externally, against the background of the Iraq war prepared by the US administration and strictly rejected by Germany. This could only mean that he wanted to step out of the shadow of the US dominance. So it was in the political logic that he was emphatically Russia-friendly in alliance with French President Jacques Chirac. Precisely because the gas pipeline represents an open challenge to the geopolitical demands of the USA, Berlin should have thought allies and made the pipeline attractive to them as a project from which there could be also benefits. Poland now fears that the Russians could turn off the gas supply to Poland, while Germany is being supplied separately via the Baltic Sea pipeline. This gives the USA the opportunity to present itself as a true representative of the interests of the Eastern European countries. So far, the federal government has remained astonishingly steadfast. One can only speculate which weighs more heavily. The fear of the loss of the political prestige of the recourse claimed worth billions. However, large sections of the media are demanding the Nord Stream 2 be put on hold in response to the Navalny attack. The Bild newspaper, one of the biggest newspapers in Germany, even calls Nord Stream 2 the Putin pipeline. This is not surprising because, as Uwe Krüger has shown in his book Meinungsmacht, the power of opinion, the leading editors of German leading media are involved into transatlantic networks. The identical demands of transatlantic fanboys such as Norbert Röttgen here in Germany and luminaries such as Claudia Roth, who understands foreign policy as a playground where they set signs, were also to be expected. Röttgen contradicted the East German prime minister, who was sticking to the Nord Stream 2 project. This is a sign that values in East and West are developing apart. Oh yes, the values. Egon Bahr should be quoted, who explained to the students that what Claudia Roth will never understand and what the Röttgens knowingly suppress. International politics is never about democracy or human rights. It is about the interests of states. Remember that no matter what you are told in history class. The conflict over Nord Stream 2 is also not about a decision between freedom and dictatorship. Guess it is the indicator for a much larger question of whether Europe potentially still has the political, physical, and spiritual culture strengths to formulate an answer to globalism that is destructively crossing state, peoples, and cultures. That requires making the best of geopolitical conditions. The obvious would be a European metropolitan area that radiates east into the Eurasian landmass and draws additional potential for them. That can only happen in cooperation with and not against Russia and Russian interests. Thank you very much for your attention.